Hello, my loves. How are you doing? Okay, I've been wanting to do this video for the past week or two because there's been a lot of energies where people feel uncertain right now. So I want to speak about that and I want to speak about tips how you can go about dealing with that. And I want to speak a little bit why we're feeling it in this point in time. However, there are going to be different points in time and lifetimes for people where they're going to feel it. So it'll still be applicable regardless of when you are taking a look at this, and trust that when you're going to this video, it's exactly when you're supposed to. So just a quick little note on why some people are feeling this. We are September, what's the date today? September 19th, 2022. Now we have 6 planets in retrograde right now. We have Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, Pluto, and the most recent one was Mercury in retrograde, which went September 10th and goes till October 2nd. Now, nothing to freak about. Let me just break this down very simply what it means retrograde. It's when a planet slows down and it almost appears like it's going backwards because we still have the Earth that's going. And it's really a time for us to revisit anything that we might have missed or we want to redo when the cycle was moving forward. And the other planets that I mentioned, the other 5, they already started back in quite some time ago. So it's not that we're feeling a full on surge, although there was a period of time close to the full moon, which was a little bit intense. It was in the sign of Pisces, which is a water sign. And water signs sometimes can feel the emotions can be very felt, very prominent, and it can be very redirecting. So if you think about the water and how the tides are always shifting and changing, and its momentum, sometimes it's very calm, the water, sometimes there's more movement, and sometimes that's how we feel with our emotions. So that's why it's been a little bit erratic. I do feel like we're coming out of it now. It's feeling a lot lighter. Still there, but lighter compared to what it was before. And Mercury in retrograde, Mercury, people tend to know about this one because it's a moving planet, and so when it's retrograde, it is a lot faster. It's like we feel it a lot more in a short amount of time, like more bang for your buck, I guess you could say. Whereas the other planets are more slowly moving, and so it's a longer retrograde. And with that, we don't feel it as prominent. The different themes of the different planets. Now, going back to Mercury, the ruling planet of Gemini's, okay, which is an air sign. And Mercury is the theme for that because every planet's got its own theme, its own personalities. The theme for that is usually technology, communication. It's funny, I almost messed up on the word communication and transportation. So these are things that we use quite frequently. And this is why we really notice it when it goes into retrograde. Now, it kind of gets a lot of heat, Mercury in retrograde, and I'd like to say we got to stop doing that because I feel like the more we attach it to be a really crazy time or a bad time, the more that sometimes maybe some people will manifest that. So I don't believe it can be a crazy time. What I believe is once we have the awareness about it, that we can implement tips where we're not going to be so affected by it. And when we know those things ahead of time, we know how to deal with it rather than being in the moment and feeling so jarred about it. So let me give you some tips on that. And then I want to go into some of the themes that I've been playing up in the past couple of weeks for people, and then some tips with that. So some tips for Mercury in retrograde. This really should just be a separate video, but that's okay. I'm totally just going with the flow and what needs to be channeled and said out. With communication, we just want to be a little bit more mindful in our communication, really catch ourselves. Okay, am I coming out of communication because I'm feeling really angry right now? Like, are we just spurting out what we want to say based on emotion? And if so, let's take a breather. And then when we're in a more calmer state, then have that communication because most likely it'll be a very different communication than when we're in the moment and feeling really charged up. Be very gentle with our words. We can say what we mean. We just don't need to say it mean, right? And some people actually have the opposite problem. Like some people need to learn to be a little bit more softer with their communication, and some people are a little bit too soft or hold back and then don't say anything at all. So know where you are on the spectrum and how can you bring in balance. Also, try not to take it personal with other people's communication as well. The other thing I feel is best is if we read something and it charges us with emotions, take a moment before responding. Say it's an email or a text message. take a moment and come back to it a half an hour later, an hour. Sometimes what I find is we read something and we internalize it a certain way, or we misread it a certain way and therefore internalize it a certain way. And then when we go back and we reread it, it actually is different than what we thought. So allow yourself to have that time. And if we have the thought or perspective in our head that everybody means well, how would we read? How would we take that email or that text, for example, if we have that perspective, okay, they mean well? Because sometimes what happens is we may have our own lens, our own glasses that we're wearing. When I say glasses, I mean our perspective, and we can misinterpret sometimes. Okay, so give that breathing space and that awareness to happen around the communication. With travel, just give yourself more time. Okay, especially if you are flying, give yourself more time. Reread all your documents, your itineraries, maybe check to see if your flight is scheduled on time prior to leaving. So that way, if there's any little glitches, you have enough time to deal with it. I think sometimes when we feel very rushed, that's when we feel more, can't think of the word right now, but I think you know what I mean. So when we allow ourselves more time. Now, that doesn't always happen. I can tell you this happened to me this morning. I had a very action-packed day. I had 2 back-to-back private yoga clients, and then I had to rush back home, get onto a meeting, and I was really cutting it for time. It was supposed to be at 11:30, and it was like 11:29. I didn't even know where the link was. I was going to have to search through my emails to find the link to hop on to that Zoom meeting. But the thing is, through it, it's like, okay, let's just breathe through it. Let's not panic in it, because that's when we start to make more mistakes, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to show up perfect timing. I'm going to show up perfect timing. Let's just keep calm. Let's keep focused on what we need to do. I need to find the email. I need to find the link and get on it. And let's just do it as calmly as possible. Let's just know everything is going to be okay. And then that one went a little bit longer than expected, and I had to hop on to another. It wasn't a meeting, but I was gratefully and honored that I was asked to be a speaker on a panel for a summit. And it's pre-recorded, but my pre-recorded slot was at 12 p.m. And now it was like 11:58, still on the other Zoom meeting. I'm like, oh, okay. And then when I got off, I was trying to find the Zoom link for that. And now I usually put it in my calendar, the link, so that way it's easy to find rather than going through the emails, which I suggest try to be as organized as possible. Especially we had some Virgo energy. Let's work with the organization. But some of my stuff does not transfer from my calendar on my phone versus from what's on my phone. So I had to, and again, it was being calm again. So I emailed the host and I was like, hey, I'm just looking for the link. In the meantime, I was looking for it and I found the link on my phone, but I wasn't going to be on Zoom on my phone. So I had to email it to me and then do it on there. But like, okay, when we're more calm, we can focus on solutions, and we're better in taking action with less slip ups when we're more in a calmer state. So it's like, okay, let's just do what we can. Okay. And I'll be honest, I had to show up for that pre-recorded panel discussion. I wanted to show up differently. I wanted to have my hair done. I wanted to have makeup. That did not happen because I didn't have the time to do it. I didn't even have time to drink water until just before my interview, which I had to get some because we got to keep hydrated. But I had to let that go. I didn't have time to do my hair. My hair wasn't even fully dry because I had a shower rushing out to my my private clients in the morning. I was teaching yoga, so I just had it in a bun, and then it was not even fully dry. I didn't get to straighten up, blah, blah, blah. I didn't get to put on the full makeup that I wanted to. And I had to throw on a different shirt, so I wasn't in my yoga clothes. Didn't even have time to take off my yoga pants, but it's okay that we're only seeing me from here up anyways. But it's like, okay, let's just do what we can. Let's just do the best that we can. Let's not be hard on ourselves. And so be it. Maybe I didn't look as glammed up as I would have liked to have been, but it is what it is. I showed up naturally. And then there was a thought in my head, well, the headshots they're using for the promo, it's from a photo shoot. My hair was done and my makeup, and now I'm showing up and I look what I thought very different. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. What matters is showing up and doing the best that you can, is a beautiful topic we were talking about. And it was from Inner Power by Maria Victoria. Amazing, amazing. I suggest checking out the panel. There'll be other speakers there too, but it's all about talking about how we work through things. And it's funny, sometimes these themes will show up for us again. And was showing up for me in all those moments. How can I power through these things that are coming up, whether it was a time thing or not being able to have time to get ready the way I wanted and having to let go of that? Because at the end of the day, that's not the most important thing, right? So how can we let go of all these expectations we put on ourselves? And how can we let go of the expectations we think other people might have? Maybe people have those expectations, but maybe they don't, right? So why are we doing that to ourselves? Let it go. The other thing, so travel technology, yes, if you need to back up things, especially the very pertinent things. Give some more time for yourselves on the computer in case things take longer or there's glitches. So these are all things that we can implement to make Mercury retrograde go a lot smoother. Now, shifting into the other thing, the themes that I've been seeing come up for most people. Hello, Danielle. She says, thank you, Corinne. What a blessing to just show up. Oh, I really appreciate it. Much love. Thank you for the kind words. Nice to see you here. So the common themes that I've been seeing with people is lately has been feeling like they don't know what's going on in their life. And it feels like things are going upside down, whether it's relationships that are shifting and changing, whether what they once wanted, they're not feeling it anymore. And I can tell you, I've been going through some shifts and changes too. I just got notice recently that the owner where I'm renting, she is putting up her house for sale. And I also quit one of my other jobs that I was doing. And my parents are moving. They sold their house, then they didn't have another house, and then they finally got one. But now they have to find another place to stay at because there's time in between from when they have to be out of the other one and in. So like, there's been all these shifts and changes, and it's like when we're in these times, okay, first take a breath. Two, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you feel these uncomfortable feelings, it's okay. It's okay. You are a human that is made up of a spectrum of emotions, and it's okay to feel these things, allow it to come up and out. There's a difference between feeling things and sitting in it versus feeling it and letting it to come up and out, acknowledging it and healing whatever nuggets it's showing us to heal. Okay. And we also don't want to spiritually bypass things either by like, okay, everything's good, and then not, you know what I mean? So there's balance in everything. Once you've had your moment feeling the feels and whatever needs to come up, whether it's crying, whatever it is for you, it's knowing that things are going to be okay. Here's the thing. When people spin out of control in emotion, it's usually because there's a fear that things are not going to work out. Because if we knew that everything is going to work out, then how would you feel? And you have to ask yourself this. I even remind myself this all the time. When I find my stomach getting in knots or this fear overcomes, I'm like, hold on. If I knew that everything is going to work out perfectly in divine timing, how would I feel in this moment? We would feel more relaxed. We would feel more calm. It's when we spin into fear that it starts driving everything else. And then people start making decisions based on that fear, and they jump sometimes. I've been seeing people do that lately. But if we let go, we can come from this space knowing that we're always taken care of. We still have to take action. But if we're in a calmer state, then we're making different decisions. And we're making decisions based on what we desire rather than out of fear. Those are two completely different energies. Now, I know it can be scary sometimes because what the mind and ego wants to do, it wants to come up with all the reasons not to trust. Oh, but last time this happened. Oh, but this time, and all that. Like, okay. But you know what? There was also other times in your life when you had no idea what was going to happen, but then that place came in time, or this job came in time, or whatever. So we can always find evidence for things that did work out or things that don't work out. And you always have a choice. If you think about it as a stick, and one end is all the times things didn't work out or you felt it didn't, and all the times that did work out on the other end, which end of the stick are you going to choose to grab onto? If you're on this one and you're not taking it, just let it go and hang on to the side of the stick and just keep shifting back into it. So that is very, very pertinent. Okay. Check yourself when you're in the state of fear and seeing things from there and making decisions from there, and then shifting back into love. And it can be as simple as just saying an intention. I shift back into love. I shift into the trust and knowing that the universe always supports me, or insert whatever word you want to put in there that resonates for you. It's a trust thing. It's a trust thing. And I think a lot of us learned the past 2 years how to let go. I'm a human too. I like to know things in advance. I like to have things planned. But I can tell you, for some of you who know my journey, well, the past 5 months I've been somewhere, one place. Prior to that, about a year and a half total, like over 18 months, I was hopping around from place to place to place. I mean, a week at a time. There was sometimes I was in a place for 3 weeks or a month, but most of the time it's week to week. There were some days I didn't even know where I was staying the next day. I had to learn to let go. And that's not always easy, I know. But the more we can exercise it, the more that we can trust, and the more that we can allow our heart, our soul, our intentions to lead the way by feeling. For some of us, we're feelers, some of us aren't. Then that can be our guiding force. And if things feel so out of whack for you, and it feels like things are not working for you, that's usually an indication we need to get back into our devotion, however that looks for you. Getting back into exercising, going and maybe taking nature walks, maybe walking barefoot on the grass, get some grounding. Maybe it's doing some writing, creative work, yoga, meditation, chanting, whatever it is for you. It's time to get back and reconnected with ourselves. And when we're aligned with that, things will be more clear and opportunities will start to come in. It's when we get so wound up tightly and we get too much in the masculine energy of doing, which, by the way, every female and male has both masculine and feminine energy, and they're both great energies, but there's a time and place for each of them, and we want to bring them into balance. So masculine energy is really great at like, okay, what do we need to get done? What are the action steps to get those things done? Feminine energy is more receiving energy. And so they're both important. In different times, they can serve us a lot better. But if we're too much in the masculine and doing, trying to make things work, controlling things, especially out of fear, we get so tightly wound like a ball. If you think about Christmas lights and how sometimes they're all jumbled together, the more we just like we tag on that end trying to unravel it, what happens? It doesn't unravel. It ends up getting tighter together. But when we can be there calmly and we take things out one at a moment and look at the next step where it needs to go and then unweave it out the next step, then we're able to unravel it. And same thing within us and our emotions and how we're feeling. So those are the 3 top tips. I'm wishing you all the best. I can feel the energy is getting a little bit lighter. Okay, don't worry if nothing. The other tip I want to share too is like this mantra or remembrance, like you do not need to figure everything out one day. Sometimes we feel that we have to remind ourselves, I do not need to figure out my whole life in one day. And most likely we're not. And things are constantly shifting and changing, especially these days. So we can have our intention, our desires, our visions, take our actions, but at the same time, let go of the how and the when, and trust if something's not working out, it's because there's something better that's there. All right, my dear friends, I'm wishing you so much love. Please keep in touch. If you enjoy this, give it a thumbs up. Maybe say hello in the comments. I'd love to know who's here. And let's keep in touch. So much love, my friends. And Mercury retrograde goes direct October 2nd. With that, I will say, though, there's always a pre-shadow and a post-shadow, so usually about 15 days. So it may still feel a little wonky, but again, the more that we're grounded in our devotion, the less what's happening in the external world will affect us. That's why I always bring it back home. Bring it back home. Much love, everybody. Corinne Clapham here.